Welcome back, everybody, to Fire Emblem Hector's Hard Mode. We're in the middle of doing Butthole's campaign. And by that I mean, what is it? Sonia? I think that's her name. Anyways. Very professional of me, I know, not remembering the boss's name. But you can see we're sort of doing this if you watch the Hector normal campaign. I'm doing it a similar way, except this time I made sure to bring a healer. This time going to be Priscilla with a restore staff, so that when my thief inevitably gets turned into berserk mode, I undo him immediately so he doesn't kill Nino. Or anyone else, for that matter. So that's what we're going to be doing. I have plenty of restore left on my restore staff, which is a stave. And if you play if you play Elowood's normal, I don't know about Elowood's hard. You probably will need it in Elowood's hard. Definitely Hector's hard. You have to have restore staff. You have to have it. Period. Because there are too many enemies on the board. That I guess if you built your team in such a way that it was very mage heavy, there's a possibility you would not need it. But in levels like this one, the one where we fought the magic seal, etc., we needed something that had a lot of resistance or evasion, you know, so that if they got targeted down by a stave, they are ultimately okay. Sleep, I don't care about sleep. Silence is a pain in the ass for magic users, but I'm kind of hoping... Oh, by the way, I forgot to level Lynn up. I had given her the Heaven Seal with the intention of classing her up immediately, like on our first turn, and completely forgot I didn't class her up. So this is me making a huge fucking mistake, because now instead of having Lynn to attack, I have her wasting a turn. And now I have a choice of either using my dancer or some other character. I mean, I've got one character, Hector, who I don't really care about. He's asleep. I gotta get rid of the berserk staff guy. I have to get rid of the hero if possible. Mercenary I can deal with pretty easily. It's definitely the berserk staff user I gotta get rid of immediately. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get rid of you, and we're gonna get rid of the Mr. Berserk staff. Now luckily the person who carries the berserk staff does not have... Oh, I'm sorry, he does. My bad. I was gonna say, luckily for me, the guy who has the berserk staff is not carrying the HP upgrade. Angelic robe, I think is what it's called. So I'm a little lucky there, but I do have to get rid of one of the two bishops. And if for some reason they get berserked, that's a terrible level up. That was awful. If they get berserked again, I'll just undo them with Priscilla. Because right now, well, at least until I move her down here, she should be out of the range of the silence. Or did I kill the silence guy? I might have killed the guy who had silence on him already. I'll have to take a look. You can tell that this is between recordings, because I've completely forgot everything about this board. Yeah, he's sleeping for another 3 turns. That's okay. I've got enough restore staff. I'd take care of that. Heath, you're MVP on this stage, as any flyer on this stage is MVP. Just because you're not limited by the land that's on the you know, but you cannot traverse. I mean, obviously, none of the characters can traverse water except for berserkers, and I believe Dart as a pirate can also traverse water, but he's very slow. And he tends to be a sitting duck because he doesn't really move all that fast through the water. Whereas flyers are not affected by any of that, which I would have assumed that I would have assumed that if you were going to try and balance out this level to make it a little bit more difficult for flyers, I would probably make it in such a way where while your flyers can fly over the water, they have to land on land. They can't just be hovering in the sky, which I know that's what they do. They hover in the sky. That's why archers are good against them, because they shoot them down from the sky and they go pfft. That's okay. I was gonna say even that hit didn't really matter to me. Now that's bigger problem because that's a silence, and I don't really want to deal with silence, but I'm gonna have to. So I could undo that with Priscilla, I guess, right now. But I do have to use heal, and then I have to kill off this bishop, and then we'll go from there. And then I know by putting the thief in here, he's now in range of Sophia or Sonya. So it is what it is. I gotta get rid. I gotta steal this. I want to steal this angelic robe. You don't have to steal this angelic robe. I want it because I'm greedy. And I want to kill this bishop because I don't like him. He's bad. He's a bad guy. So he's going to die one way or the other. Either I'm going to send Keith in, which I'm clearly targeting down this guy now, but or more than likely it was going to be my paladin that I was going to send in, because none of these other guys are going to be able to reach. I need you over here. You need to come up and heal. Good job, doing good. You can heal. Yeah, that worked. Perfect. See? 3D thinking. 4D thinking. Imagine if you had a team of flyers. I want to say would just break Hector's hard mode wide open, because I'm sure there's plenty of things that counter or would make doing basically an all flyer campaign difficult. But you definitely can get enough of provided you don't let the villages get destroyed and or defeat not defeat the guys that are holding the stuff, but you have enough class up items, not including the earth steel, to take care of all of the flyers. Make sure that they all can class up is what I'm trying to say. Heath, the 3 Pegasus Knights, and then obviously Valdia is pre-promoted, so you don't need to do that. So as long as you have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're good to go. And I'm pretty sure it's, aside from maybe having to steal one, and obviously save the village, like I said, in that one mission, you can get to 4 pretty easily without needing the Earth Crest. But even if you miss one, you still have the Earth Crest to allow you to class all 4 of them up. And then a mission like this just becomes super easy because you send the 4 flyers, maybe, I'm speculating here, and you send them down along the bottom, killing anything and everything in your way, and then you push them up into where Sonya's area is, kill Sonya. Particularly with your Pegasus Knights, you should have good to great constitution. And obviously you're using them instead of, say, some of your ground units or Kent, Sane, as a replacement. And you could, once you kill the boss, I think the reinforcements stop. So if the reinforcements stop, then, the rest of this mission could just be super easy. Now, I want to get the experience, particularly on this level, on easier mode, I'd prefer to get the experience for Nino and any other character that's currently lagging behind, because there's so many guys in this Hector's hard mode and you're not getting a ton of experience because basically what you're doing is you're plateauing. Basically, you're getting ahead of the enemy, so they're not giving you much experience. And then as the difficulty continues to increase, then you'll start getting a bump up in how much experience you get, and then once you hit that limit, it slows you down again to prevent you from, 20 your guys mid-game or something like that without really penalizing your later units. But again, the catch-up mechanic there is also in there, where you've got a guy like Heath, you get it, what was he at, 10, 8? He was at some really low level. Within 2-3 levels, I can get him up to the point where he's ready to be classed up along with my other characters. But in the same regard, once they did class up, I've leaned sort of heavily on Heath to take care of a lot of stuff for me because he's got high defense. But in the same regard, like, you can see where some of my characters sort of haven't really been leveling up like they should. Lynn, obviously the exception because I chose to level up Elowood first. I'm not saying they're lagging behind by any stretch, but as we get closer and closer to the end of the game, I'm kind of thinking, all of these characters should be at 10 right now, classed up 10, and they're not. So it kind of worries me that I won't have enough experience to have a solid team for, say, the last mission, which is ultimately what I'm thinking towards. And I understand, for the most part, it's not really going to matter because, only 4 characters are really going to be able to do any serious damage to both Nurgle and the final boss. But, I don't know. I'm gonna keep going. Here's a question. Do you ever have something that leaks into your lexicon that you just use all the time? And I'll give you an example. Whether it's media or stuff that happened, earlier in my life, there are certain phrases that just get to stick around in my brain, where others have come and gone. For instance, there was a line for a while that I really liked, but it didn't really apply to any situation. We're not even going to say many situations, not even few situations, any situation. There was a line from the preview to the third Matrix movie, which we're not going to talk about the third Matrix movie or what I thought of it because it's garbage. But there was a line where Agent Smith's going, "Mr. Anderson, we've missed you." I love that line. I just like the way it was delivered and everything. But there's no application for it. So I don't use it, obviously, in my daily lexicon. And so eventually, aside from me, bringing it up as a memory, that's all it is now to me. However, there's this one that you'll probably heard me say before, and I say it relatively frequently, maybe a couple times a year. Hooray, hooray, hooray. It comes from when I was in elementary school. We used to have a thing called giveaway day, which was if you bought the school lunch, which I was always buying school lunches because party, good meal, not a lot of money, I'll hold you over from lunch to dinner, no problems. Mom and Dad don't have to worry about making breakfast or lunch for you because it's already provided. And again, it's not terribly, I paid for my lunches. My parents paid for my lunches. But they weren't terribly expensive even back when I was going to school. So it was not like, well, here's $10, Christopher. You can make a choice between eating a school lunch or going to McDonald's because it's going to be the same amount. No, I mean, like our school lunches were like much cheaper than I don't even know how to explain it because it's a completely different economy. If I say my school lunches were 50 cents, you'd be like, oh my God, how the fuck did you have school lunches for 50 cents? Well, my school lunches weren't 50 cents, but they were very low. And they stayed that way for a very long time. And I don't know if they were subsidized in some regard. I imagine they have to be. But our school lunches were like $2 or $1.50, depending on what you were getting for a whole lunch. That would include, you know, like a, you know, I'll give you a bad example because we didn't usually have this, but it would include like a small square piece of pizza, or two small squares of pizza with pepperoni in the middle of each. You would get a fruit, a milk, fruit, milk, entree, and then usually some sort of side dish. Pizza didn't really make a lot of sense to have like green beans or anything, but there were a lot of other things where that worked, where you would have green beans along with like a turkey and gravy. I'm getting distracted from my story. Anyways, on these giveaway days, underneath some of the trays, hiding were the giveaways. You know, they were randomly selected. Okay, so you know, underneath the tray would be one of 4 or 5 gifts. One of them was the best one, I thought, at least, was the ice cream. You could either get an ice cream sandwich or an ice cream bar, which were, for a little kid, I mean, decent. Another one was cookie. There would be just a, you know, round. They would have this, I don't know, it wasn't really a big cookie, but it was big enough. It was bigger than your, you know, standard cookie you get out of your, you know, chocolate chip Oreo box. They also had, the worst one was pretzel rod. They give you 2 pretzel rods. I don't really care about that. But that was still nice to have a pretzel rod. I mean, even if it was like the least interesting thing. Trying to think if there was anything else. I don't think there really was anything else other than those 3. But you would get 5, there would be 5 winners in that lunch. So you would have, you know, you'd have someone win the ice cream, someone win a cookie, someone win the pretzel rod, and then I think there was another ice cream and another pretzel rod in there or something. I don't remember. Because cookies were sort of, they didn't really make cookies in elementary school because why would you give the kids the option of that? But there's something else. There's something else I'm forgetting, and I don't know what it is. There were ice cream bars. There was the ice cream sandwiches, and there's something else I'm forgetting in there. So that was always like really awesome. And there was a guy who would watch our lunches occasionally, and on giveaway day he would go, hooray, hooray, hooray! Today is giveaway day. And it's always stuck in my lexicon, you know, because you can use hooray, hooray, hooray for a lot of things, you know. Trying to think of other things that are just sort of randomly pop up, little bits of media that just sort of are in my brain forever, you know. You know, a lot of it's sort of meme culture or things that I thought was really hilarious, you know, from either television shows or cartoons. I hate to say it, but a lot of what Seth MacFarlane did in his shows early on, particularly early Family Guy, first 3 seasons Family Guy, and American Dad was oh my god, I love American Dad so much. I know it's different now that it's on TBS, and then it's coming back to Fox, coming I think this fall. I heard something about that anyways. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, because basically what happened to Family Guy was like, well, we have this funny show that everyone enjoys and everyone likes to make reference to, at least in my friend group, would make reference to it. And then it comes back and it's like, hi Lois, I'm your husband. I want to divorce you, but I can't because plot. Things have to go back to normal at the end of every episode. Or every other episode. You know, if you have a 2-part end of the season sort of thing. But everything's got to go back to normal. At the end of the season. End of the episode, I mean. So nothing can change. So, but I'm gonna make jokes about like meth and crack and wanting to divorce my wife and wanting to cheat on my wife or want to kill my husband and want to kill my kids, or my kids are terrible, or I mean just like the most you talk about dysfunctional family, the most dysfunctional, and in such a way that it's a lot of like the shock humor, the cringe humor. But you know, I mean, for all I complain about it, it still delivers these really great cutaway scenes. That's like the whole thing of Family Guy is the cutaway scenes. You know, that's a hilarious one where you know, Petra's farm will remember. I know that's an earlier one, but Petra's farm will remember. You know, maybe you buy some cookies. Maybe this all goes away. Hilarious. Meth is one hell of a drug, Peter. Not so funny. At least in my opinion. But I like American Dad because American Dad tends... I know they're getting... They've done basically everything, so it's just rehashing a lot of old plot lines, or they're revamping characters to make them more interesting or whatever. But sort of what I'm trying to get at is I still reference stuff like that from time to time. There's a line from American Dad where they still hadn't really figured out what to do with Roger at that point, and Roger thought he had like special powers, if you will, like E.T., the ability to heal. He goes, Steve, maybe my special power is not getting you molested. Maybe. I thought that was funny. You're saying, oh, maybe my super special power is flying. Nope, it's not flying. Well, maybe it's keeping you from getting molested. But don't hold me to that. So that line maybe is. I just love that. I thought this. I don't know. I know that's sort of in that ballpark. I've just complained about, you know, Family Guy being, you know, the cringe humor, the meth is one hell of a drug line from coming out of Lois, just like, you know, whatever. It's, I don't know what it is about that kind of stuff that just turns me completely off. But I know there's an episode where I think Stan gets addicted to cocaine or something. But like even that seems, for me, it's like the Brian episode where he got addicted to cocaine because he's a drug sniffing dog. And what do you do with cocaine? You shoot it up your snoofer. So of course you get addicted. Of course it makes sense, at least in my brain, makes sense in the line of the way the plot's going. It's not just Peter sitting in the living room and Brian comes in and goes, "What are you doing? Smoking crack?" Where'd that come from? Out of left field. But I'm complaining about a show that I think is. I think it was more of like a revenge. Again, I've always thought that when Family Guy came back, it was sort of a revenge tour against Fox for what they did and how they canceled the original running of it. Or it could be secondarily. I always think about, you know, I watched a documentary talking about early Fox, and one of the things they talk about is the shows that got Fox off the ground, which are The Simpsons, Married with Children, and there's a third one out there. I'm sure it's something related to like you know, Cops or NYPD Blue, something in that regard. More of a drama is what I'm trying to get at. They talked about both in Married with Children and The Simpsons, you had people who were really great writers in the early seasons, and then they left and they went off and did their own thing. But when they did that, it caused people who had watched these shows as college people, you know, in college, and they were dissecting the episodes and breaking them down. And it made the show different, because when the new writers came in, they were looking at it from a more analytical perspective. They had basically summarized what the characters are. It's sort of taken out all the nuances of early episodes, and it just sort of turned all the characters into buffoons, if you will. caricatures of what they were. And you could say that's what happens with all comedies, is that you start out and you've got these characters that are basically your clay, and they're nuanced, and you're not really sure what you want to do with them. And then as you mold them and shape them into what they're eventually going to be, you lose some of that nuance of what they could be in favor of what they are and what works for the audience, you know? Like, I'm not gonna get too far into it, but I saw that. I watched all of Scrubs from when it started to when it ended, and it ended at the end of 8th season. It didn't continue into ABC. I don't acknowledge that existed. Okay. So blah blah blah. You have JD, who you're not really sure what to do with him, and his character, his relationship with a character named Turk, very, very weird in first season. But as longer it goes on, the more they become buddy, you know, and ultimately they form this like really great dynamic duo that not only makes that show great, but also creates an actual true life friendship where they did T-Mobile ads together, which is a little bit more than I'd ever expect, you know. But hey, they're really just not just in the show, they're actually true best buddies, you know. It's first second season, I don't really know about that. That didn't really seem like it was there, but I don't know. They're goofy best friends, I guess. And it could all just be a marketing gimmick, you know. They played best buddies on you know, Scrubs, so of course the people know Scrubs, and they know that they're Turk and JD, and this is great for advertising, you know. In reality, they might just be sort of, but this is what I'm told, is they're actually real best friends in real life, so I'll take it for what it is.